What do you think, Frank? Is it time to start?
Yeah, I think this would be a good time to start. So thank you very much for your patience as we get organized here. My name is Frank Newman. I'm the founder and CEO of Newman Human Resources, and I will be your facilitator host for today's session. This is the sixth corporate excellence session that the strategic partners have hosted. And our goal here is to provide our clients, our friends and colleagues with some of the most influential thought leaders in Canada. And we're absolutely thrilled that you can join us for this session. I'm going to introduce Ross Bauer in a moment, and he's going to talk a little bit about the partners. We have a few partner introductions, and then we'll get into our session. Ross, I'd like to introduce Ross Bauer. So Ross is the president and founder of the Strategic Partners Group. And Ross, I'll kick it over to you.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Frank. And a special thank you to all of you wonderful people for joining us today. Just a quick note, the Strategic Partners are a group of dedicated professionals who are committed to helping our clients become more successful, make more money, and grow their companies. And we do that by introducing our clients to special people so that they can apply their talents to your company. So I'm not going to take any more time other than to tell you just a little bit about what I do. I provide better employee benefits to my clients for less money. My mission statement is to make sure that my clients are over the moon happy with service, plan design, and pricing. Thank you.
Very good. Well, thank you, Ross. What I'd like to do is we have a number of the strategic partners on the call today, and I'd just like to, I'll call out their names. They can just introduce themselves very briefly. Maureen Fakur.
Frank, you need to unmute yourself.
Maureen, you need to unmute yourself. Okay. Also like to introduce Scott Gray. Scott?
Yeah, thank you. I'm with Transtech Research, Inc. We're a research development and innovation consultancy firm. We offer a specialty SaaS solution for companies doing R&D and experimental development. So we provide some differentiating services from other people that are out there. Our information's on the TSP website. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Scott. Andrew Proctor.
Thanks, Frank. I represent Sparrow and Associates, located here in the Toronto area, and we're consultants and experts in organizational productivity and process improvement for different types of organizations. Been in business about 5 years now, and again, Frank, thanks for hosting today.
Very good. Thank you, Andrew. Steve Sabian.
Hello, I'm Steve Sabian, Go Energy. I provide energy savings, energy efficiency, and carbon reduction strategies.
Thanks very much, Steve. You're keeping us all warm here today. Simon Fallows.
Yeah, I'm Simon Fallows with Freedom for Founders, an M&A firm, mergers and acquisitions, and exit planning is what I specialize in.
Thank you, Simon. Jessica Chalk.
Thank you. I'm Jessica Chalk. I run Traffic Soda. We are a digital marketing agency. We've been around for 10 years. We specialize in helping businesses grow through more lead generation, through SEO, search engine optimization, advertising, copywriting, email marketing, social media, and a few other things. Those are our core competencies.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jessica. Drake Blemmings.
My name is Drake. I am working with Drake Tech. We specialize in software development and business process automation. So if there's any processes that need streamlining or systems connected, we're really good at putting those systems in place. And yep.
Very good. Thank you, Drake. Tyler Hardy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tyler. I'm a partner with Colin Hiley, a law firm in Southwestern Ontario, head office in London, and I work out of our Kitchener office. My practice includes corporate transactions, wills and estate planning and administration, and real estate transactions, residential, commercial, industrial. So pleased to see everybody here today. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tyler. Maureen, I think I tried to introduce you. My mic was off. Okay, I think Maureen's mic is off as well. Very good. So we want to give you just a quick introduction to some of the many talents and skills of the strategic partners. And basically, we're your trusted advisors if you need assistance with any corporate issue, etc. So it's my pleasure today to introduce Mr. Bill Bishop. So Bill is a noted entrepreneur, author, keynote speaker, and an innovation coach. And for the past 35 years, he's been helping clients with their big ideas. And he's actually working with me to transform my HR business as well. And so basically what Bill does is teaches and coaches business owners about future-oriented business strategies. He combines marketing, innovation, and leading-edge technology. Bill's written many books. In fact, he wrote the book Strategic Marketing for the Digital Age, which was the first book published about internet marketing. And that was many years ago. And Bill has gone on to write many other books. He's been sold in 25 countries and translated into 12 languages. So today, Bill is here to teach us about the future of business in the 2020s and specifically how to dance with robots. So put on your dancing shoes, and I'd like to turn it over to Bill Bishop. If you'd like to mute your microphones, that would be helpful, and we'll give Bill center stage.
Okay, so I don't use Teams that much, so I just want to make sure there, Frank, that you can see my presentation now.
Yes,
Oh,
you're good. Yep.
Okay, terrific. All right. Okay. So what we're going to talk about today, for about an hour, is we're going to talk about the future. And the biggest question that I want you to ponder here is your business ready for the future? Now, most of us actually aren't, because we're spending most of our time thinking about the present, right? We have all the things we have to deal with today, and one day follows the next, and we never actually get around to thinking about the future, and that can be a dangerous thing. In the 90s, I had Kodak Canada as a client. We published all their magazines and so on, and so that was a good client. And my photographer bought a digital camera, and that was 1995. So it was $15,000, and it was about the size of a toaster, but it was really cool. It did all the things that you can do with a digital camera today. So I said, let's take it to the president of Kodak Canada, show it to him, because I thought he would be interested. But to my surprise, he said, oh, yeah, no, that's never going to work out. No one's ever going to want to do that. It's $15,000. I said, well, the price will come down. And he said, well, it's as big as a toaster. I said, they'll get smaller. But I was really surprised that he couldn't see that. And then I realized that it wasn't that he couldn't see it, it's that he didn't want to see it. And this is a real problem that we all have, because often when we look at new technology, we think, oh my God, that's going to disrupt my business. So we don't want to even look at it. We want to sort of put our head in the sand. That's not a good strategy. So what I would now have recommended to him, if I had the chance, would say, well, just set up a little new factory, I call it, and spend about 5% of your time on thinking about the future. Call it Kodak Digital or something, and just sort of work on what that might look like. And maybe that, because it might turn out to be the future. But of course, they didn't do that. And now Kodak is kind of a very small version of what it was back then. And that's only, 25 years ago. So this is what I see happening more and more today, because there's a lot more technology coming. And a lot of people are kind of scared of it, and they feel threatened, so they do nothing. So that's not what we want to do. So Ford Motor Company is taking the approach that they want to invent the future. So if you go down to Detroit, there's two factories down there right now, side by side. There's one factory, their old factory. It makes the Ford 150 pickup truck, and that's the most popular pickup truck in the world. But across the street, they have the F-150 Lightning factory, and that's their new factory, I call it. Now, it's an interesting thing because these are totally different businesses, and the old factory is, a traditional, manufacturer of trucks. The new factory, though, I call it a hyper-intelligent business, and they have a hyper-intelligent product. It's like it's an iPhone on wheels. And so this is what the marketplace is asking for because they can't keep up with that demand for those vehicles. And it also is a totally different business model. If you go into the old factory, 80% of the people in there are working on assembling the truck. But if you go in the new factory, 80% of the people in there are working on software and developing all the services that will run on this iPhone on wheels, just like the App Store on your smartphone. So, but the interesting thing is, why is Ford doing this if they have a really popular product right now? They could have just rest on their laurels. Well, I believe it's because they know where the future is headed and they want to be part of it. And they know that one day, either sooner or later, the last old factory truck will run off the line and all they'll be doing is the Lightning. I can't say when that is, but that's probably inevitable. So they don't want to be behind the curve here. They want to be in front of it. And that's really what we have to do in this day and age, right? So obviously you might not have the resources of Ford. You might not feel like you could be an early adopter, but we can start by being early learners. That's really a powerful thing to do. Okay, so so how are you going to survive in this future and prosper in the age of hyperintelligence? So I'll keep using that term, hyperintelligence. What does that really mean? But what we have to do is learn how to dance with these robots, artificial intelligence, actual robots, the metaverse, and others that I'll talk about in a minute. What kind of relationship are you going to have with that technology? So some people are like, I don't want to have anything to do with it. It frightens me, like the Kodak guy. Other people are, this is the greatest thing ever, and what's there to worry about? And that's probably a little over the top, optimistically. What's that balance between it? And what I believe is that we can look at this like AI as being, oh my God, that's this hyper intelligent software that is going to beat me out. It's like got an IQ of 10,000. Or the way I'm looking at it is, oh, that technology gives me an IQ of 10,000. What can I do with an IQ like that? An hyper intelligent IQ like that. So that's the way I want to dance. So we got to start getting ready for that. So I'm going to teach you 3 dance moves here in the time we have available to us. So the first one is to understand, at least on a basic level, this hyper intelligent technology. What are these technologies like AI? I call them all collectively the hyperverse because they're actually all one big system. They all work together ultimately. So I made up a new term now. I call it the hyperverse. And then the second thing is to say, well, because this technology exists, we can actually run businesses that are different kinds of businesses, like a whole different way of designing a business. So what would that look like? And I'll give you some examples of what people have done. They created their new factory, I call it, using a different business model that they realize now is so much better than the old one. And then the third thing is I'm going to talk about 3 or 4 hyper-intelligent business strategies that are in a lot of ways the reverse of all of the strategies we've learned up to now in the old factory economy, as I call it. And we don't have to unlearn those, but in the new factory, there's different ones, and we need to learn what those are. And it does require a bit of shift in thinking. So that's the agenda for today, is to look at those 3 things. Now, I've been talking about the future of business for a long time. Really, my whole career. I kind of started off by doing that when I worked with Apple in like 1983, 84. And I was a person that got up and demonstrated the Mac to audiences about how this new kind of computer works. And that was all really exciting stuff. But recently, about 5 years ago, I wrote a book called The New Factory Thinker, which was really to say we need a new way of thinking about business. Most of us are using an old factory way of thinking about it. We need to have a new way of thinking about it, and because this is what the marketplace is rewarding. So I'm going to talk about that today. The sequel of the book, which came out last year, it's called Dancing with Robots. So that's the topic of today. But they're really just one long book, really. And so in these books, I'm making predictions of the future of what might happen. That first book I wrote about this kind of thing back in 1995 about internet marketing. I coined the phrase digital marketing. Nobody knew what I was talking about at that time, digital marketing. But I made a whole bunch of predictions about things like I said, well, in the future, not too far from now, you'll just be able to download a movie from your TV and watch whatever movie you want. It'll just be a list of movies, just pick one and watch it. And most people thought, well, that's crazy. That's going to be so far in the future. That's sci-fi. I said, no, it's coming. It's just technology's just got to get a little better for that one. And many, many other ones. And it was always, a lot of people had that reaction. So I'm going to make a few predictions today that in my mind are kind of obvious, but you might find them a little sci-fi, but they're not really that sci-fi at all. So that just be ready for that. Okay. Now, all of this is based on very practical experience. This is not just theories here. We have a program called the Big Idea Adventure. It's an innovation program for companies. And we've had 5,000 companies do that program in the last 25 years. So we've learned a lot about how to innovate and how to make those innovations work in the marketplace and so on. So that's what I'm sharing with you today. So I'm going to give you some examples of some new factories that our members have created to give you some ideas and inspiration for your business. I also have, in addition to our coaching, we actually build new factories for ourselves as well. And we have 4 of them now that we run. And these are based on the thinking that I'm going to show you today. And they're all very successful, and they're getting more and more successful all the time because we're following the blueprint that I'm going to show you here today. So the first thing that I want to say about innovation and building a business for the future is that most people don't do it for a reason is they don't really want to screw up their existing business. They're worried that it'll, do something, and people are telling them to transform their business and so on. And I say, well, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to keep our old factory exactly the way it is. We're not going to change a thing, okay? Because nobody wants to change anything, actually. But we're going to add on a new factory. So like you go across the street like Ford did and say, okay, well, we've got this space here. What could we build? And we don't have to build a building here. It's just it's a idea, right? But we're going to do it that way. So we're not trying to turn like our old factory. Like say we had a candle. We make candles, and we're going to try to turn a candle into a light bulb. It's not going to happen. We're going to have candles, and we're going to have light bulbs. Okay. So what's your light bulb going to look like? What is that new thing? So I'm hoping you'll just park your old factory a minute and start thinking, what would our new factory look like? Now, there are certain characteristics of old factories and new factories. So old factory is a very linear business typically that uses physical assets, has a lot of physical assets. So like a real factory, right? Like let's say we make hammers or something. We get the raw materials, we bring them into the factory, we make hammers, and then we ship them out the door, and we try to sell the hammers. And so it's a linear process, right? It's an assembly line to make hammers. And we're all kind of running that kind of business typically, even if it's a service business, we think of it kind of in that way, right? We have our hammer, and there's this process that we do to pump out the hammer, normal sort of way. But a new factory is a different type of cat. It's network oriented, so it matches the orientation of the internet, really, and it's built with virtual assets. So it's typically, it's few physical assets as possible. It's a virtual thing. And these are the businesses of the already exist, but these are the businesses of the future. This is the kind of business you're going to want to have going forward. Another analogy that works quite well is the idea of the airport. So most of us have a business that's like running an airline, and we're trying to sell tickets on the airline seats. We're trying to sell the seats on the airline, and we're kind of running that. And you can see that'd be a very asset heavy business, right? Whereas a new factory, it's like having an airport, and essentially you're just bringing people together in a virtual way. So it's not like a real airport where you'd have to build the airport physically. It's a virtual airport where you're bringing certain parties, stakeholders together, and you're like the host of those relationships, and you're facilitating the interactions of these folks. Okay, this is a huge opportunity for all of you to start thinking that way. But you can see how the way of thinking about running an airline and running an airport would be quite different, right? There would be a whole different way of thinking about how do we make money and what are we really up to. The key intervention strategy then is to simply say, keep the old factory exactly what it is and add the new factory. Let's layer that on. And it's always more motivating for people because we're not going to muck up anything. We're just adding something, which is always something, we always want to add things, right? So this new thing will just be an add-on. But the first major benefactor of it will be the beneficiary will be the old factory. Get more business. Now, when we start imagining our new factory, we have the permission now to reimagine everything. Like all the old game you're playing, that's fine. That's the old factory. This could be a whole new game, all new rules, all different ways of making money, providing value, running a business. This can be a whole new thing. Just give yourself total permission to reimagine everything. And the people that do that are going to be the ones that are going to be the most successful in the future. And you're really reimagining everything to help achieve something great for your customers, basically. So the first step here is to understand hyper-intelligent technology, at least have some sense of what these are and what you could possibly do with them, okay? So I have this experience of talking about these things, and people immediately go to all the dangers of it. And I say, well, that's a perfectly valid thing to talk about, but let's not talk about that right now. Let's park that, because that can just take up all the oxygen in the room, and then you don't really do anything with it. As opposed to saying, well, how can I use these tools as a way to grow my business? Like, what could I do with it, right? And as soon as you have that attitude, you start seeing all kinds of things you can do, and then you realize that you can make the world a better place with it. You see, so that's the way we want to approach it. And what I'm hoping is that you'll start to work on becoming a master of the hyperverse, because it isn't like you're just going to know one of these technologies. It's really that you have to think, I'm in this environment where all these technologies are there and they all work together somehow. How can I be a master in that kind of world? How can I do that? And the only way you can begin that is to understand it, actually, and start looking at how it's being used. If you don't have this literacy, you're going to be completely left out, and so you don't want to be that. Like we say around here, the biggest motto is don't be a dinosaur. Doesn't matter how old you are, do not be a dinosaur. It's not going to be a good thing. You're going to end up like the dinosaurs. So the first one is the one everybody's talking about right now, artificial intelligence, right? And and we have all these ideas of that probably from sci-fi movies and Arnold Schwarzenegger and all that, the Terminator, and et cetera, et cetera. But it really isn't that big a deal in a way. Artificial intelligence is software, and it's software designed to do something different than regular software. So regular software like PowerPoint I'm using right now, it's just designed to provide a function, right? And it's useful. But artificial intelligence software is designed to learn. And typically it uses what's called neural networks to learn from a set of training data and then it's able to, tell you what it's learned, tell you what it's finding out, and give you insights into that, right? That's really what it's about. And what is kind of shaking the world right now is we've gone from, where the last 10 years, we've basically been predictive artificial intelligence. Like the navigator in your car would say, this is where you should go, and we're predicting this is when you'll arrive at home by taking this route, or here's what you should watch on Netflix maybe, or this is what you should buy on Amazon. So that artificial intelligence is there, and we're getting pretty used to that. And some of us find that annoying and so on, but and suspect, but that's what we've been using it for. But now we have generative AI, which is a whole different thing. This is actually AI that will create things. So some of you, I'm sure, have been experimenting with ChatGPT, which came out on November 30th last year, which I think will be considered to be like a turning point in perhaps the world, I think, eventually, because this is when generative AI really took off. And so it can create things, right? So I've been using it this week, actually, to write scripts for video. I wrote a script about promoting this presentation, actually. I had it help me write a script for that. It sped up that process dramatically. I was still participating in it, but it had sped it up. And then I was able to use an AI called Synthesia to actually make the video using an avatar. And the results have been pretty good. Like I'd say 90% of what I could get with a human. But with a human, it would have taken a week and cost me thousands of dollars. And this took, an hour and cost me virtually nothing. So that has been a great tool. Now, I've also used it to write software. So ChatGPT will write software. I use Python language. And it wrote a couple of software programs that I now run on my Mac that are kind of specialty software that I couldn't buy anywhere else. No one else would ever make it because it's very specific to my business. Essentially, it generates new names for products and services, like, words that don't even exist in the dictionary, just new words and so on. So it's really a cool thing. But the GPT wrote the software for that. So this is where things are going. So people are freaking out. When I got my book published, I asked the publisher if they could do a picture of a human dancing with a robot. And they said, well, yeah, but it would cost $5,000 and we don't want to spend that much. And I said, okay, that's understandable. But when DALL-E came out, which is DALL/E, that one creates pictures and illustrations and so on, just by you asking it what you would like to see. So I said, well, give me a picture of a human dancing with a robot in a certain style. And it started generating all these pictures, and some of them were really excellent. So I'm using those pictures now as the the marketing for my talk, right? And if I'd had it like a year ago, we would have said, well, forget the $5,000. We'll just use ChatGPT and make the cover for the book. And so I don't think the illustrator is going to be able to charge people $5,000 anymore for doing that. So that's not good for the illustrator. So we have to start thinking about how we can use these tools to enhance what we're doing, not get so worried that it's going to replace us. We have to start thinking about how can it enhance what we're doing. So that's what I've been trying to do with this technology, even over the last few months, right? So there are now, I was at a meeting out in Alberta, and there were people there that were in the, they designed houses and built houses, right? And so one of the fellows there was, he asked DALL-E to design a 4-bedroom house, and with all the specs of it and everything. And literally within 2 minutes, it had completely given the blueprint for a 4-bedroom house. And then he said, well, yeah, but I'd like it to be like this. And then it would generate a new iteration of that 4-bedroom house. And some of the people in the room who were in the building business, their jaws dropped, right? And they went, oh my God, that's the kind of thing that takes us weeks to do. And we get paid for that. And now that program just did it that quickly. So it's a bit of a wake-up call, because the other thing is that all the companies now are jumping in here and they're just trying to develop this now because it's sort of a AI arms race now. It's going to speed up the development of this dramatically, good or bad, but this is what's happening. And it's going to touch every business that, creates something. And you'll either be, the one that gets disrupted, or say, no, I figured out how to use this to create things even more, like in the fashion industry, creating clothing. Like I say, in the agriculture business and medicine, in any kind of financial services, like if you're a lawyer, that this technology can write contracts for people, wills, it could write wills and so on. So then you got to wonder, well, what am I going to do? If that can do that, what am I going to do? So this is why I want you to partner up with it and say, we're going to get good at using this to provide those things. And then we're going to start to provide higher level services that go beyond what the computer can do or the AI can do. That's the only path forward, really. And this will grow exponentially and go very, very fast. And you're really going to have 3 layers of it. You're going to have the general AI model, which is it's like, say, the OpenAI, which did ChatGPT, basically was trained by going through public school, high school, and university and got its BA. That's where it's at right now. Maybe just high school, but let's say BA. Then what will happen is that they'll train models on your industry. That'll be like they'll get a master's in your industry. And then the third level will be a PhD in your company. So there'll be those 3 layers. They'll get very specialized to be like your company is trained on the information of your company. And at that point, you'll be saying, well, we're going to have an AI as the CEO or executive of our company. And we keep asking it, what should we do now? What's the next thing we should, just like you ask your navigator, how should I drive home? And it'll tell you, and you can decide if you want to obey that, right? And you usually do. So now the AI will tell you what you should do with your company today. It might say, on Friday, everybody wear yellow to work. And you say, why is that? And you say, well, because I can't explain it. It's too complicated, but that's what I'm saying you should do. And you go, okay, everybody wears yellow. And then a prospect shows up, and that's their favorite color, yellow. And you get the account because they figured you're all people who like yellow like them. So that was why. And then it starts giving other weird ideas, and you go, okay, well, we'll just follow it. And then you'll start wondering, who's running this business? Is it the AI or is it us? But if it's giving you a good outcome, you're going to keep listening to it. That's not science fiction. That's something that's going to happen very, very quickly. So look for all that happen. Okay, that's AI. Then we have robots, right? So that's the physical manifestation of the AI in the world, really. And robots are going to become more and more ubiquitous. And once one robot learns something, all the robots learn something because they're all connected to each other. So what's going to happen too is that robots are going to become more and more able to do things like pick a strawberry off a vine. Okay. So right now it's kind of those hands they have are very kind of clumsy, but they'll become have more and more fine motor skills, for example, to be more and more fine work like that. So they end up doing things like, cherry picking off trees, which I did for a little while in the Okanagan, and I would never want to do it again. So if a robot could do that, that would be a great thing. Okay, I think anyway, for the world. So you're going to see more and more of that. And anything that involves any kind of manufacturing is just naturally going to be done by robots because, robots don't ask for a salary. They don't take a day off. They don't get sick. They don't ask for a pension. They don't go on strike, right? Et cetera. And they don't even ask for a salary. So, there's this company in England that has a grocery delivery company. And they have a distribution center that will just blow your mind. And it's all robots and AI running it. The human owners of the company have no idea how the whole thing works. But one of the metrics that's encouraging is that they've gone from 10% food waste down to 1% food waste in that distribution center. So this is becoming more and more automated, and wasting less food, which is a good thing, right? So you're just going to see more and more of that too. Scary stuff, right? But also perhaps good for the world as well. Once again, it's like, okay, if robots are doing all that stuff, what are the humans going to do? And as opposed to saying, oh my God, this is terrible. It's like, yes, we just have to figure out what the humans are going to do. That's really just that's what we're being asked to do, right? Internet of Things is another technology that's part of the hyperverse. These are the eyes and ears of the AI, right? So we have like cameras, we have sensors, my furnace is hooked up to the internet, my security system is hooked up to the internet, and I can access all these things. It's generating a lot of data. And that in the next 2 years, there'll be more data generated than all the data of the last 40 years of the computer age. So in 2 years, it'll double, right? And then in the year after that, it will double again. And then in the next 6 months after that, it'll double again. And and eventually it'd be like doubling every couple of days, So tons of data. The AI will then feed on that data and become even smarter and be able to find patterns and information that we could never know, but could be extremely useful in running the world, basically, right? And making the world a better place. This is what we're hoping it'll do. Now, the purpose of all this technology, which is very positive, is that it's to help us all get a better result for something using less resources, less time, money, effort, and things out of the ground. And if you see it that way, then it's very, very positive and will generate a tremendous amount of wealth in the world. And that's going to be good for everybody. Most of that wealth will be intangible, so it's going to look weird. It's not going to look like the kind of wealth we've had in the future. And the most important, best result that this is going to help us get, if we put it in that direction, is well-being for everyone in the world, including the planet itself. So we can use it for that. That's its job. The AI's job is to get a better result using less resources. Then we have the metaverse. And I was surprised at how many people don't know much about it, because it really has been around for a while. And it's becoming more and more ubiquitous, actually, the metaverse. But essentially, these are virtual worlds that you can go into using a headset. So I have my headset right here. If you just look at my video of my face, I'm going to put the headset on. That's an Oculus Pro headset. It's $2,200. It's kind of like the equivalent of the $15,000 digital camera. But what I use it for is to go into virtual workspace and have meetings with my clients sometimes. And so we meet, instead of on Zoom or Teams, we meet in virtual reality, in a metaverse. And it's very, very cool. And I have a whole office set up with all my branding in it and everything. And people come and we meet in a boardroom, and we're sitting there as if we're right in the room together. And it looks like a bit like a cartoon, but the quality of it has vastly improved over what it was even a couple of years ago. It'll become more and more real, as real looking as the few years go by. So you're going to, one way or the other, you're going to be spending time in the metaverse. Like a lot of us thought, I'd never spend so much time on Zoom. I didn't even know what Zoom was for the pandemic. Well, that's the same here with the metaverse, is we're going to be spending a lot of time on there, doing business in there, making money in there. And I've already made money in the metaverse. So when the pandemic happened, I thought, how am I going to get my team together? We're not in the office anymore. So I used this platform called Virbela, which didn't require a headset, by the way. It's just like on your screen. But I rented for $100 a month, an office in the Virbela metaverse. And, and so I had this building. So you'd walk up to the building, it's a big idea company, walk in the building, and there's all these offices. So each member of my team had an office in there. I started inviting my clients to visit that because I thought that would be kind of a cool thing for them to experience. And then I said, hey, if you want to rent some space here, you can have an office here. I'll set it up. You can bring your clients into the metaverse and rent it out. I kind of had unlimited office space. So I rented out 20 units for $100 each in the metaverse. So I basically was a commercial landlord in the metaverse. I was making $1,900 a month renting out office space in the metaverse. Now, that's pretty crazy, right? But it had a very useful function for people. Okay, help bring people together in a virtual world. So you're going to see more and more of this happening. There's also the notion of augmented reality, which is probably going to be more used than virtual reality, which means that you'll have some kind of headset. It'll probably be like $50 or something. And when you go out into the world, there'll be virtual things in that world, and you'll see them layered over the real world. And the difference between those things will become harder and harder to discern. You know, it'll be like we'll be living in a metaverse all the time without even knowing we are in one, right? So I know that sounds really creepy, and maybe you don't want to do that, but it actually might turn out to be kind of interesting too. So that's the metaverse. That's like just a little overview of that, right? And then we have quantum computing, which even like 6 months ago, I go, I don't know if I want to include that because that's really far out in the future. But in the last 6 months, it's becoming apparent that this is actually something that's happening right now. IBM is the biggest player in that quantum computer world. They have, I think, about 25 quantum computers that are running now. People are writing quantum algorithms to run on those computers, and they're throwing all kinds of very complicated problems at the quantum computer to calculate. Now, quantum computer can calculate in 10 minutes what would take a normal computer potentially 10,000 years to figure out. So there's a danger here with encryption, which I won't get into, but they're worried that quantum computers could then hack a lot of the encryption that's really just useful because it takes a long time to break it, right? But if a quantum computer can do it in a minute, then that's not a protective system anymore. That's the downside. On the upside, it can be used to figure out a lot of things that could make the world a better place. Primarily, what a quantum computer is it uses the physics of quantum physics, or the laws of quantum physics, to operate. So a traditional computer works on bytes, bits, zeros and ones. It's just calculating everything by manipulating zeros and ones. It's the easiest way to think of it. A quantum computer can use any number between 0 and 1, and it can be, because it can actually have what's called superposition, which is it can be 0 and 1 at the same time. So it has an infinite number of kind of building blocks. They're called qubits, in which to use to make calculations. And this is why it speeds everything up. At this point, there's a lot of error in it. It has a lot of noise that has to be written out of it. So that's what they're working on. But it already has been proven to be incredibly useful. So if you add that to the hyperverse, that will speed up computation dramatically. You may probably never own one yourself. It's a desktop computer, but you'll probably be able to access a quantum computer through the cloud to calculate certain things. And certain services you'll use will be using quantum computers to as its underlying technology. So we're also going to see that. So altogether, if you take it in a positive light, this will speed up the development of so many useful solutions to so many problems. It will create its own problems that will also have to be solved. But if we take a positive attitude here, there's a lot we can do with all of this. Okay, so that's phase one of this talk, is the hyperverse, and that's technology. Okay, and so what's the best way to use all this? How are we going to use it to grow our business? How is this all going to work out? And this is what I've been doing for 20 years, at least 25 years, to help people with the internet, right? But now we have all these other things as well. So it's gotten to be even a more interesting dance with technology. So the answer is to use what I call new factory thinking. So even though I showed you all that first, I don't want you to think about the technology first. I want you to look at it from the standpoint of like, what are we actually trying to do? Okay. And the way to think through that is to use what I call new factory thinking. Okay. And this way of thinking is different from the traditional way of thinking. Like normally we'd say, well, I want to create a new kind of hammer or something, right? That's my idea. I don't want you to start there. Where we want to start is like, think about who you want to help and then say, what's my big idea for helping those people? What's the problem they have that no one's helping them with? This is a very entrepreneurial thing, right? Saying, I got to do something new. So I got to look at my customers and go, what's the problem they have? What's my big idea for solving that problem? What is it? And then in order to get them started on that, I'm going to give them something for free just to get the relationship started. Say, I have this new thing, can help you in a big way. I'm going to give you this free thing. Just like, it's free to go on LinkedIn or something, right? And then what we want to do, because this is an airport, is that we want to link people together. So we're thinking about how can I bring all my prospects together so they all interact with each other? How can I then connect them with this whole network of resources that they could connect to? And I'm kind of in the middle, right? I'm the one that owns the airport and I'm facilitating these interactions there. What does that network look like? And then all of that stuff has been free so far. So am I making money? Oh, right. So I have these advanced programs people could go into. It's like they become a member of a partner and they pay a fee for getting special treatment, right? So anyone can come in for free, but if you wanted to get more, then now you got to start paying, right? To be a member or something. And then also those people get access to your toolbox, or what I term the value hub. These are all resources that you're now giving them access to. So you have your own stuff that you're selling, like Apple, right? But Apple also sells other people's music, other people's apps, other people's movies, for example. And so Apple is a value hub. Amazon's a value hub. Facebook's a value hub. Google, right? They're just really connecting people together. This is the model for the future. And what you can do is you'd say, I'm going to have this airport. I'm going to bring all these people together, but it's a particular kind of person. And the more specific it is, the better. So I have one network it's called the 10% Speaker Network. This is for keynote speakers. And so those are the people that are invited to come to my airport. And they all want to be there because all the keynote speakers are there, and I'm the one that has got them all coming to this airport. So you want to think about who's that special niche that you're going to serve here. Because in spite of all that technology, it's all about helping people here. We want to make humans first, robots second. Okay, that's what we got to keep in straight here. We're the masters, they're the servants, right? Not the other way around. So the cool thing about all this technology is it gives you the ability to do new kinds of things, like new kinds of businesses. And what we want to do with our new factory is have it set up so that no matter what technology comes along, anything new that we haven't even heard about here yet, any changes that happen in the world, which there'll be tons of them, the business itself is rock solid. It's actually designed to manage the new technology and changes coming. So it's like a future-proof kind of business. Because all of us right now, the old factory, are in danger of having whatever our hammer is be made obsolete by this technology. So we don't want that to happen again, right? If that's what ends up happening. So the first thing is you could say, well, I could have some kind of advanced membership program. So just think Costco, right? Or Prime membership at Amazon. But it doesn't have to be $100. It could be $100,000 for a membership. Meta Keating is an office designer. And so we helped her put a membership program together called the Office Alive Solution, which is a more advanced way to do office design. That's the easy way to think of it. And her normal invoice was $10,000 to a company. I said, okay, that's for the basic thing, but for your membership, it'll be $25,000. And then we'll have an even more advanced membership. It'll be 100,000. And in the first month we did that, Mozilla, the internet company, hired for 100,000, and they said they hired her because she was the most expensive, and they wanted this program. So she was like, "Oh my God, I've been keeping my price down for so long." But the really cool thing was, because she was getting paid 100,000, she could really bring her smarts and her creativity to that project, and did some amazing things with them. So I want you all to be able to sell gourmet meals, and instead of just hot dogs, essentially. And she's been getting into things about the metaverse and Internet of Things and AI and everything. It all just fits right nicely. Then you can start thinking about this value hub idea. Like, what would that look like for you? Rick Goet, his customers are the airlines, and his old factory is selling them air filters that go into airplanes. I said, "Hey, Rick, is there anything else you'd like to do for the airlines?" And they said, "Well, we could help them find parts that are hard to find, not just air filters, but any kind of part. We could do that. We would be able to help them with that." So he started helping the airlines with that. It started off very small, and then it evolved into the Right Now program, which is a website that the airlines go to find hard to find parts, but at this point, every part now, really. And they get points for buying stuff. So that keeps them, it's kind of like Canadian Tire Money. And this has become the Amazon of the airline industry. And that, not only that, but it also helps them sell more air filters, because there's more and more people coming to that site, and he can put his air filters up prominently on that site, and so they're buying more of his air, and he's actually selling his competitors' air filters too. So this is like, as I say, when you start thinking about a new factory, just think, I'm going to be Amazon, Facebook, Apple, and Google all wrapped in together. I mean, this is what we're going to have our version of that, right? And the cool thing about all this is it's kind of hard to understand, because you're probably all thinking, like, how would I do this? What is Bill talking about? So it's a little hard to understand at first, but once the light bulb goes off, it's actually really easy to do, because the technology is so inexpensive. Like, we don't have one new factory that we know of that we've helped build where it costs more than $100 a month for the technology. Like, that's really amazing, right? That's why we're able to do these things now, where we couldn't do them before. Then you can start thinking about an ecosystem. Like, Apple has an ecosystem, right? Like, what would that look like? I have a client, he's from Australia, and he initially told me that his business was cutting grass. He said, "We cut grass. We have all the big cities, like a lot of big cities in Australia. We cut the grass in their parks and stuff like that. We cut grass." He said, "I want to have a new factory. I'm sick of cutting grass. I don't want to do that anymore. Or at least I don't want to only do that." So it turned out they had this logistics software in their company they used. And I said, "Oh, that's an asset." I said, "So we're going to stop doing grass cutting, and we're going to start doing integrated vegetation management." So we upgraded the description of what they do, because it's more like they were doing garden maintenance and tree maintenance, like this whole ecological thing they do. And they had this logistics software to manage all that. And it was really kind of an early type of AI, really. So what the plan became was to give the cities this software for free. He said, "Here, we'll give it to you. You can use it for all your projects and manage everything yourself for free," right? So they all went for it. And then he said, "Now, if you want to go to level 2 or level 3, it's 50,000 or 250,000 a year, be at those levels. And we integrate your suppliers into this, and they all pay 10,000 a year to be in it. And then it's just all one seamless system, one seamless ecosystem." And this worked out so well that he sold his old factory. And then he told them, he said, "Well, any member that I have, if they need grass cutting, I'm going to refer them to you. I just want 10% of what you charge them." And they said, "Fine," like a sales commission. And he says now he makes more money from his old factory than when he owned it. So, because it's all profit, I put it all in my pocket. And And this is a ecosystem that's not going anywhere. Everybody that's involved is a winner, and the environment's a winner. So he's really happy that he set this up, right? That was all possible because of new ways of thinking, really. And then the last one example is you can sort of think of yourself as an alpha network. Like what you're trying to do is position yourself at a higher level than your competitors, essentially. Okay, like how can I be at a higher level than them? I call that a value position. So Peter Turkstra, which some of you might know because he's in your area there, Turkstra Lumber, right? So they have about 10 stores, and he said, yeah, we sell lumber, and that's all people think, but we sell a lot more things. And I said, yeah, well, you've got the word lumber on your building there, so people think it's mostly lumber. He said it's very cost competitive. People will go across the street and buy lumber for, say, $5, so that's frustrating. So what they did was they created a program, but basically they wanted to position themselves as world-class coaches. So they had this Build It Better program. And somebody comes in to the store to buy lumber, and they ask a question now. They say, well, what are you building? Seems like an obvious question. They say, well, I'm building a deck in my backyard. He said, oh, well, if you sign up for this program for free, one of our world-class coaches will come to your house and coach you on your project, just kind of give you some advice. So let's say they say yes, and then you go to their house and say, yeah, you really shouldn't build your own deck. You don't know what you're doing. It's dangerous. By the way, we have a network of contractors you can use, and you get a discount because you're a member. And by the way, that lawnmower that's broken there, we can get you a new lawnmower, and you get a discount because you're a member. And so now they're selling the lumber, they're selling a lawnmower, and they're getting a sales commission from the contractor. So they're making all this new kinds of money, right? And this has been very successful. They've been doing it for 5 or 6 years now. If you go to their website, you'll see all about it. You can sign up for it. I do believe they now have paid membership levels as well, right? So they've done something else too, which is very new factory. They've turned their clients and customers into members, just like Amazon has. They have 450 million members, and they get $100 plus from them. So it's like we're literally talking about like $45 billion or something that they earn from their customers, right? Before they've even bought anything. So you could also have members. All right. So those are some examples to give you some big ideas and to inspire you to say, oh yeah, well, lots of people are doing stuff. And all of those new factories are beautifully set up now to use AI because they have all these interactions going on, a lot of data being generated. They could certainly bring robots into the mix here. They could put all of this on the metaverse, right? They could have their members meet in the metaverse and so on and so on, right? So this creates a business that can incorporate technology into it without disrupting it, but just really empowering it. So the last phase of this, the third phase of this, is just to talk about strategies for success, like business strategies here. In my book, The Dancing with Robots, I talk about 29 of them. And they really are the reverse of the old factory way of thinking about things. But they're designed to make you successful in a networked economy, hyper-intelligence economy. And I'm just going to talk about a couple of them. So the first one is, in the old factory world, if we're thinking of innovating, we typically try to think up a new product or service that we might have. That's where we start. And we've got all these ideas for those things. And that's all good, but that's not where we want to start. We want to start with who do we want to help? So think if I create this new factory, who do I really want to help? So pick the ideal customer for you. And the more specific it is, the better. Okay, like find your niche. Say, this is my niche. And that's actually the industry you're in now. Okay, you're in that, let's say you say, I'm going to work with female professional basketball players. That's my niche. Okay, it's not any kind of basketball player. It's female basketball players. That would be interesting to female basketball players. So start with who do you want to help? Then the next thing, as I mentioned, is to say, how can we help them get a better result using less resources? Normally, we want them to consume things. But in this world, it's like, how can I help them get a better result using less resources? So it's like you have the world there's light bulbs, and then you come along with the LED light bulb. Well, it's 10 times more money, but in the long run, it uses less energy and has to be replaced every 20 years or something. So it's actually cheaper in the end to buy that. So an LED light bulb would be an example. So the question is, what is your LED light bulb there? Like, that's probably in my picture. I should probably change that because it looks like a regular light bulb there. You just noticed that actually. Okay, we're going to change that picture. Okay, and then the third thing is to dematerialize. So as you start getting more and more into the new factory, you're going to get rid of more and more physical things. Okay, you're actually going to have more relationships with more people. We're not getting rid of people, but we are getting rid of stuff. Okay, because in this economy, most things are going to start to disappear. And it's already happened. The iPhone has made a lot of things disappear. I don't have a camera anymore, for example. I don't have a date book, I don't have a flashlight. I just use the one on my phone, right? So I don't have a clock. I use my phone, and so on. So this is going to continue. It's eventually the iPhone will disappear too, I think. It won't be actually a physical thing you're holding anymore. We'll see how that goes. But more and more things will disappear. So if you're going to have a business, that's the kind of business. It's all intangible. So here's another prediction. In the future, 99.9% of all value will be invisible, and it'll be delivered by businesses that are virtually invisible, which seems really like at least intangible. We'll make them visual in certain ways, but all of it will be intangible. And that can sound scary too, or weird, but that's actually what's happening right now. So dematerialize. And finally, it's like invent the future. So don't wait around for all this to happen to you. Say, okay, we need to go do something in order to make the future happen. So do what I suggested Kodak might have done. Say, we need to have a future, department, maybe it's just you, but you say, I'm going to start spending like 5% of my time working on our new factory, even just as an insurance policy, right? But 5%, that's only 5%. The other 95 you can spend on your old factory, fine. But if you spend 100% on that, you're going to miss an opportunity, right? And you could get sidelined here. So 5% of your time. And what I've done is I say, get out of the old factory. I go, whenever I have a new big idea or a new factory I'm working on, I go to Starbucks and I work on it there. So I'm in a different place and I can just have a fresh thought about it because I'm not stuck in my old factory trying to figure it out. So that might be an idea. Go to a different place to work on that. And so we want to kind of do what Ford's doing, right? They have their old factory, going to sell those trucks for as long as they can, but they're building the product and the business of the future. And it's a different kind of thing. And they're working on that. And they haven't got it all figured out, but they're going to keep figuring it out, right? And they're going to be in a good position vis-a-vis the companies that don't do that. So that's the ultimate thing. You come to these things and you hear this and you go, well, that was all very interesting and so on. But then most people will just go back to their old factory. They'll go back to running the airline. And they'll spend 100% of their time on that. And I'm suggesting, maybe you should also start working on your airport, your new factory, 5% of your time. Just start to think about what that might be, right? And that's going to give you a lot of energy. Because if you're putting all your effort trying to fix the old factory, it's like, maybe that's not the place you should put all your energy. Maybe there's creativity is where you should put it, is into creating something for the future, right? So one thing I do is to help people is I help them create their big idea. I have a free session. I call it the Big Idea Conversation. And if you want to do that, we can get together for 60 minutes and brainstorm that. So in a second, I'm just going to send the link to do that in the chat if you're interested. There's no fee for it. All the ideas you saw there were created in that that's in a 60-minute session. So that's an offer that you can take advantage of if you like. Okay. Actually, let me just do that now. If you look in the link, I'll just send you that just so I'm not remiss in doing that. There you go. So all you have to do is click on that link and it'll find a time. It's probably be mostly in April at this point if you want to have one. But this is your opportunity to do that if you'd like to. And I'd be more than happy to talk to you about all that. Okay. So do you want, what do we do? What's the format here, Frank? Do we have like a little feedback point or questions thing?
Yeah. What I was going to say is, first of all, thank you, Bill. It's always great to feel inspired and challenged and realize there is optimism in the world to use these technologies. What I'd suggest, the easiest way to share some more information is if people wanted to type a question in the chat room.
Sure.
I can then read that to Bill.
Yeah, I got the chat. I got the chat open.
You got it open? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you have a question for Bill, please feel free to type something in there. There is, I think David Burtnick asked a question earlier. How do the new fiber chips impact quantum computers, or would these also have an impact on regular computing?
Are we sure we're talking about fiber chips or optical fibers? I'm not quite understanding the question there.
Yeah, optical
And
fiber. Yeah, instead of using silicone, so improving the processing speed of a chip.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't know if I have the answer to that. That's kind of outside of my expertise at this point. I don't know what, I know a little bit about how these quantum computers work. Mostly I try to figure out what they can be used for, right? So that would be a question you'd probably have to dig. Maybe you could ask ChatGPT the answer to that question. How's that sound? That one's beyond my intelligence at this point.
Great. And there's a question from Andrew Proctor. What is Bill's vision for Industry 5.0?
Industry 5.0. Okay, so there's another terminology that I'm not familiar with. Are you talking about the third industrial age, perhaps? Or I don't. Well, my vision, if I could say what it is that okay? Somebody asked me yesterday. Said, well, if everybody has their airport, then how is that a competitive advantage? And I said, well, it's like when they created factories, not everybody, there were still farms, right? So there's always going to be factories. People are going to still have factories, right? That's not mean they're going to get away from that. But even if everyone did have their own airport, that would make all the airports more useful, because the purpose of an airport is to go from one of them to another. So the more airports there are, the more people are hanging out in the airport. So I see a world where we have a network of networks, and everyone is operating within that kind of environment, and doing this kind of business in this way. So that's my vision. Yeah, third or fourth industrial revolution. The only word I take exception with is the word industrial. That's kind of olfactory in my mind. I see why they use it, but it isn't going to be an industrial revolution. It's going to be a hyperverse revolution. So there's not going to be industries. Industries are not going to mean anything anymore, and it's not going to be our definition of industrial. It's like making things that are tangible. That's still happening, but this is a different kind of revolution. So I'm gonna call it the hyperverse revolution. How's that? Even better, industrial revolution.
Even better, Bill. Other comments or questions for Bill? If people felt comfortable, they can unmic themselves as well and ask a question. I think we've still got a few minutes.
Yeah. Do something. Here's a question. What part of this talk excited you the most?
Bill,
Some people say it freaked me out. So then they go, okay, fine. And then what excited you about it?
Bill, I'd like to make a comment.
Uh-huh.
I was fortunate enough to be on, involved in one of your meetings with Frank when you're building his new business,
Yeah.
his new factory.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say that the process that you use to develop and fine tune the ideas, I think is very constructive and very helpful. And I would just like to suggest that Bill doesn't bite, and you're all welcome to take advantage of that 1 hour free session and have a really great constructive conversation to see if there might be a really big idea to help you streamline your business, improve your business, perhaps build the new factory, whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
I would suggest that, Bill is a very nice guy. And if you've got any thoughts of doing something exciting with your business or starting a business, Bill's a great guy to work with. And that first session is free, and you don't owe him anything after that. If you get inspired and you come up with a great new idea, you might make a lot of money. And I'm just going to repeat a story that Bill told me, that one guy signed up for his program, and after the free session, there was I think the next program was like about $1,000. The guy signed up for the whole program. After the first meeting, he stopped and he said, I don't need the rest of it because I made about $30 million. So, some of the money you can make with some of these big ideas is real. So,
Yeah, he actually, because of what he came up with, he went back out at the marketplace and he sold 3 $10 million programs. Or sorry, yeah, $10 million programs, just like that. Like it was, I don't promise that, right? Usually, but he was said, yeah, it was that idea that did it. So,
so
never know.
Like look at the guy that did the pet rock. You can look at the guy that did those little sticky notepads. I mean, there's
Post-it notes.
Post-it notes. I mean, there's lots of examples of people who made a fortune, changed their life because of an idea.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have an idea, share it with Bill. It might turn into something fabulous.
Yeah, Bill Scott Gray here. I worked for the Agility Forum way back when it was DARPA funded, looking at how the world was going to change using devices that you spoke about. And really appreciated. To me, it's their document 30 years ago did the same thing that you talked about. So it's great to see somebody reissuing that big vision and a way to get there. So thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate that.
The other thing I like about Bill's approach is the fact that you can still keep your old factory running at the same time you invest in your new factory, so you don't walk away from anything. You just continue to grow and develop. And also Bill teaches a very pragmatic approach to just incrementally changing things. So you learn, you grow, you develop. So it's another way to do it. But certainly, I encourage my clients to, invest at least 5% of their time in thinking about new ideas, because innovation is the heartblood of our success. And also in these times, as things are changing so fast, it really makes sense for us to take advantage of these ideas and go from there. So very good, very good. Well, we've done pretty well with time. Are there any last minute questions for Bill? Any comments? And then I'll turn it over to Ross to wrap things up. Looks like we're good. Very good. Ross, I will turn it over to you to wrap things up for us this afternoon.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for joining us today. And a special thanks to Bill Bill generally charges quite a bit of money to speak to a group like this, but Frank convinced him that there's good value in talking to our group. And again, the Strategic Partners is dedicated to helping our clients become more successful. What we're trying to do is to become your trusted advisor. And if you have questions about your business and you want to talk about your business, feel free to call us, because we probably know somebody who can help you, even if it's not a strategic partner. Right now, there's 15 of us. We're always looking to grow. So if you feel you might fit into our group, I'd love to talk to you. Right now, we're working on our next meeting, which will be number 7. And the next meeting is going to be a hybrid meeting where it's going to be in person and online. And we're going to be talking about building corporate culture, improving employee engagement, and improving employee retention. Because what we've learned in this day and age that we're in is those 3 topics are pretty key when it comes to running your business. So all you people are on our mailing list now, so stay tuned for our next invitation. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Ross. We appreciate everyone's time, and we will be we are videotaping this. We'll put together a suitable presentation. We will send it out to you with Bill's contact information, as well as further information on the strategic partners. We want to thank you for your time today. Have a great day. Think about success, and don't be afraid to check out that AI technology. So have a great afternoon, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you at our next session. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.